There we go. We are
There
here.
we are.
Not even 2 minutes late.
We made it.
We made it.
Yes, we did.
Too much fun.
Yep. Another episode of Beyond the Binder. I'm Jason Emanis here with Adam Tuttle, of course. And today we're asking a question that sounds simple but isn't. What separates world-class hotel from that's merely very good? What's good to great? So our guest has a clear answer we've noticed over the years, and that is consistency. So no scripts, no binders, no corporate sameness, the ability to deliver excellence every shift, every department, every guest interaction. We are joined by Daniel Hostettler, President and CEO of the Boca Raton, the only Forbes quadruple 5-star resort in the Americas, which I had to look up because I was like, what exactly is that? But yeah, so that's what are the what are the
four?
What are the four?
So our yacht club, which is one of our 5 lodging products, our beach club, another of the 5 lodging products, our spa Palmera, Flybridge, which is our fine dining. I call it our date night dining room, our most fine dining room at the top of the yacht club. Those are the 4. The goal is to have 25 stars, and we were going for the tower, which is our other luxury product out of the 5, and that one only has 4 at the moment. So we have 24 on our goal of getting to 25. And we hope we bring that one in this year. That team's working really hard to up their level of service. It's hard in a property with, 1,050 rooms spread over 300 acres. It's very rare to have a single 5-star. So to be able to have 4 of them and one that is almost there, I think is something we're very proud of. The team's worked very hard.
Incredible. I mean, we're talking, there are, just to even earn that 5-star award is such an honor and such a thing. But to be able to, I think that, Daniel, what the most impressive thing that we get to talk about today is that, sure, we could say doing it once is incredible, but being able to do that over and over and over, and dare I say, and over again,
Right.
truly demonstrates that it is not an accident, that it is a perpetual behavior. It is what it's clearly defining excellence and delivering excellence. And I think that this conversation today is just going to be thrilling because of that, right? Like, because it is the question, what does it take? What do we really got to do to get there? And what's the heart and soul that has to exist in order to achieve that? And of course, from your end to lead it, and from your team's end to deliver it, to be there all day. So I'm very excited for today.
Right. Me too.
Yeah, fantastic. I was, as you were reading off all that or rattling that off, I saw a Lombardi quote this morning. You won't find perfection, but if you go towards perfection, you will find excellence. Sounds like you haven't perfected. You've got a little more places to go, but man, you've got the excellence going.
I have an HR director who I've worked with for 20 years who always says, Daniel's always seeking perfection, but he'll settle for excellence.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I know where she gets that quote.
You and Vince. Well, so let's just get going. Let's kick it off. Question number 1. Like, what do we want to talk about? We want to talk about, we caught, Daniel, that in the past you've talked about different styles of service, but not different levels of service. So how do you operationalize that across multiple hotels, departments, and leadership teams without creating robotic hospitality?
Well, I think we started from the premise when we purchased the hotel 5 years ago, and it was being run as a Waldorf Astoria, that you don't come to ultra luxury at 1,000-room property, right? They had a very different business model. It was very much a convention house. We wanted to reposition it, elevate it, make it 5-star level luxury. And the way you have to do that is to divide the property up, right? How do you eat an elephant? one bite at a time. So really looking at it as 5 individual lodging products on one property, and really giving a hotel manager ownership of each one of those lodging products. So we want a brand standard, which is really the Forbes standards, right? That is our minimum expectation for service delivery to the guest across each one of the 5 lodging products that we have. But then you have a style of service at each one of those hotels that is unique to those guests, because the other thing when you're looking at luxury is, finding 1,000 people that can afford luxury are different types of guests. And so when we renovated the beach club last year, for instance, I refer to that lovingly as our Miami Light Hotel. It is hipper. The uniforms are made out of linen. They're a little wrinkled. It goes for a younger crowd where, Miami may be a little too cool, and this one's a little more family friendly, but it's certainly our sort of 30 somethings wealthy, or 30 somethings early 40s hotel, which is a different style than, say, the Yacht Club, which is our 110 room all suite, butler on every floor. Every suite has a patio and looks out onto the intercoastal, and that doesn't allow children below the age of 16. And so that's our adult, more 50s plus, children are not traveling with us lodging product. The tower that we renovated about 2 years ago is closer to a Four Seasons product. It's 12 rooms to a floor. Each corner is a 1-bedroom suite that connects to a king junior suite and a double. So you can make family suites. And there, the butlers don't wear ties. They're a little hipper. They're more fun with the kids. It's very family friendly. So we are trying to sort of be a house of brands where each one of these hotels is a specific style and brand and feeling, and you pick the lodging product that appeals to you as the traveler, which I think is what luxury is today, that curating of the experiences. But then you've got that standard level of service and thread count on the sheets and all the important things that are also important, and that permeates the entire property.
What an operation.
Yeah, it's a small city. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's particularly hard with Forbes because you have to get everyone to embrace it, because while they're giving the Yacht Club the 5 stars and the tower doesn't quite yet have it, the inspector's going to have a drink in the lobby bar, which you can be a guest at any of the 5 hotels and go there for a drink, and that's going to score towards the Yacht Club's scoring. Or they can lay at our 4-acre beach club or pool club with the lazy river, etc. And if that doesn't meet the criteria for service level, then you're not going to get the Yacht Club, which is actually the hotel that's being rated, to pass its 5-star inspection, because rightfully so, they are going to assume that regardless of what lodging product you select, the rest of the resort's amenities, golf, tennis, swimming pools, the 18 restaurants, are also going to be to that standard.
And it comes down to, it really is saying, okay, how do we define our service for who we are? How do we make sure that it feels authentic and feels genuine as we move through these? We have these standards, we have these expectations, but really when it comes down to it, it is, standards, at least the way I like to talk about them is, Forbes, when they come into you and, you get this amazing things, it's Forbes is not trying to define service at any organization. What they're trying to do is, in this case, they're verifying that what you're doing is, of course, the highest version of luxury. That they're coming in and they're saying, like, look, we're just verifying that what you're doing is this luxury approach. And I think that when we understand that, and we've taken the standards out of a box to check, and instead it's a service to deliver, it's an experience to touch on, that's really where we start seeing the separation, right? Where we start seeing, okay, I can repeat this because I have a defined experience. I need to create this experience versus, oh God, how am I gonna fulfill this standard? No. How am I gonna connect with this person, this guest, while providing, on that connection in elegance, in a way of doing it with elegance and excellence, shall we say.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, 70% of the standards are now service related versus physically related. And they have started in the last couple of years to give points on what is the overall feel of my stay, right? It isn't just checking the box on did the eggs make it to my table in 12 minutes. There are those standards as well, which are important to have. But it's really, did the inspector feel that this was a world-class stay that was curated individually to them? And when you're being inspected multiple times a year, each inspector has a different feel for what a world-class experience is to them and a curated stay. But again, that's no different than the guest, right? We are trying to educate our team that what you want in this visit is different than what I want, different than what JC wants, and we may all stay in the same week over the same days in the same hotel, but we're all looking for different things. And I think that that intuitiveness is what you're trying to train the staff on. It's almost more, the standards are almost secondary, right? The standards are the given for that level of service. And it's that style that you were asking about that is what you're teaching the team and how to read that in the guest.
And I think that it comes down to, especially when we're focusing on standards, it's, going back to, I think, Jason, your thought here is, how do we operationalize that and yet keep our soul, right?
Yeah.
Yet keep the heart of us without becoming robots, without becoming this, okay, check the box, I hit this transaction. I always like to say that it's about the interaction, not the transaction. And when we think through standards, I often, we have to very often remind people and remind hoteliers, it really is about stopping, pulling back, looking, what's the point of this? What is it I'm trying to help this person see or feel or experience? And I just love that as we look at our operations, it is coming through two things. And I love how walking into, I guess, a little bit of a trap here, where you were saying, at this hotel that it has this feeling, and this hotel targets this vibe, these people wear these type of uniforms, because it really is saying, what is the experience I want you to have here? And the standards are going to should at least help us understand what that stepping stone is, so that in the end we can say, I want this experience, and I want it delivered in luxury as well. How do we combine those two? How do those two meet together? And so what it comes down to, and my opinion is, when we have standards that are so clearly defined, rather than chaining us to robotic movement, we're actually enabling excellence, we're enabling authenticity, because we talk about competence and confidence, right? I'd say it way too much. And our competence and knowing the standards and knowing the execution and knowing the steps of service and all of those things allows us to become ourselves, allows us to focus on the anniversary, the birthday, all of those different things. And so as we look toward these standards, it's not a robotics, hit these or else. It's hit these so that we can deliver that experience. And I love it. I think that what you all have done there is the embodiment of that, of saying we can do it, and we can do it across a footprint.
I think the standards have to be sort of the guidelines in which you work, right? Because I think that hotels can take those standards too seriously, and then it becomes robotic. And I think that the example I often use is that, Ritz-Carlton, when they started, it was all about my pleasure, right? That you went through a 2-day orientation process, and day 2 was the exact language you were allowed to use. And I think what they discovered, and that's one way to make a luxury hotel be consistent in its service. But the problem is, when the guest has heard my pleasure as the answer to their question for the 100th time in 2 days, it doesn't really sound like it's your pleasure anymore, right? It sounds a little like, to heck with you. And I think that even Ritz has relaxed that, and understood that too standardized, too scripted is not luxury either. You got to let your people shine. It really comes down to building the culture hiring right. I mean, I say it starts from the beginning. We hire for personality and we train for skill. I can train anyone to wait a table or be a front desk agent, etc. I can't train you to be naturally outgoing and smile and want to work weekends and holidays. This is a lifestyle decision for the people that work in the hospitality industry. So you have to first and foremost hire those folks and then give them every bit of training and support because they're the ones doing the job every day. But it really starts with the hiring, and then it's the culture building of ensuring that they understand how important they are to this guest interaction, right? There are easier places to work than a luxury five-star hotel. Front desk agents probably make within $1 of each other, whether they're here or down the street at the Marriott, and they have to work a whole lot harder here. But I think they do that because they have the pride and the pleasure, and we really celebrate those wins when they discover someone's anniversary or something that we didn't know about on the way in, and we create these wow moments. We celebrate those, so it becomes part of your culture that everybody wants to be creating these moments for these guests and have them leaving saying that was the best experience I've ever had. Otherwise, it's just a room with nice sheets, which there's a lot of guys out there delivering today.
It is. And, as a former front desk agent myself, that I had the opportunity when I could connect with a guest and I could step into being a hotelier that genuinely said, gosh, I gotta see you. I gotta connect with you. It's not why. I think you've hit it on the head. Look, we're hiring for attitude. We're hiring for spirit. I think Danny Meyer calls it the EQ, right? Or the HQ. Sorry, the hospitality quotient.
Right.
Of, do we have these elements about us? And I think that is what is attractive to so many of these hoteliers that want to deliver this type of service, that they get to work in an environment where that's the expectation, but also not only is it the expectation, they're given the freedom and the ability to do so, to actually, oh my gosh, you did learn that it was this guest's birthday. What are you going to do to celebrate it? It's not, oh, I can't believe you really want to spend chocolate covered strawberries. Do you know how difficult that is? You got to go talk to the chef and they're going to get really upset because you're asking for strawberries. And when that mindset is what's gone, and it's saying when we're as a team coming together saying, I want to help you and I want to help you be successful in connecting with the guests, man, we can do that because it's so easy to break down. It's so easy for those silos to start existing in operations. It's so easy for organizations not to care about the effort that you're trying to do and what it is, because we're just looking at, okay, well, what does that mean for me and the energy and effort it's going to cost me to do this?
Right.
Where when we're as a team and we're seeing, no, we're actually delivering as a team here, delivering this amazing experience. That's really what it comes down to is, do we have that buy-in? And you said it, the culture.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that teamwork as well. It isn't my hotel is going for 5 stars. Yours doesn't have it yet. There's plenty of team members that float between these 5 hotels that are in the bars and on the front drive, et cetera, that are all part of those scores. And so you have to have the buy-in of everyone. And that's constantly working at your culture, especially when you're in a property with, 2,200 employees and 1,050 rooms. It's not easy to get everybody rowing the boat in the same direction.
Well,
Not even.
I mean, most hotels, like you guys, you have standards, you have audits, you have training. Where do you find that standards break down operationally most often?
I think the lack of the pride and the lack of leadership to instill the proper culture. If you are celebrating, like we just talked about, every win, every time you do something unique for a guest, it becomes almost competitive with each other, that the whole team wants to be the next one that's celebrated and the next one who thinks out of the box to deliver that level of service. But it's down to the culture, and it has to be a culture of management is there supporting the associates that are delivering the service every day,
And I think that, like, for me, when I see this, is like, where does it really break down? Like, where does that happen? And I think that it is when we get too focused on the task, and we've stopped with the importance of stand-ups. We stop with the importance of sharing the information with other departments, right? It's like banquets, or a sales and catering manager not forgetting to tell the front drive, hey, we've got a huge group or buses coming in, or hey, we have this event happening. We have to really look at how this operation, this culture is going, and where I think where it really starts to break down is when we only start focusing on ourselves and we only start seeing our energy and effort, kind of back to that. But
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
agree with you.
And I think too few folks understand the value of delivering that level of service is also eventually, if you're too focused on the P&L as well, if you're worried about the front desk agent who's sending strawberries because it's going to cost you $4, when you start looking at those wow moments and that empowerment as a marketing expense, because those guests are coming back and they're telling 20 other people about the greatest stay, and you have to stay here next time you go to Southern Florida. This is the hotel. That really makes you stop worrying about, today's P&L and look beyond that at the value that you are going to drive in the way of ADR and occupancy as people get to know the level of service they can expect when you are there. And I think also explaining it to the team members as well, and that they are all part of this business. I like to feel that we have a very entrepreneurial team here that really understands every one of them and the importance they have in the organization and why. And that's, again, a cultural thing that you're constantly explaining why the steward is as important as the person at the front door, as and the chef in the kitchen, and myself, running the show. It all falls apart with any one of us not in that mix, right? And it really does have to be a team effort, or you're never going to get there. If you got 80% of the team on board, you're running a really good 4-star hotel, not a 5-star hotel. My favorite quote I will share with you was years ago. I had a 4-star hotel trying to get 5, and Forbes inspector was there explaining our report, right? And where we had missed the mark. And my management team was like, well, that happened because this, and that happened because of that. And the guy looked at us and he said, the difference between a 4-star hotel and a 5-star hotel? 4-star hotels make excuses. 5-star hotels figure out how to solve the problem, right? If you're missing that standard, how am I going to solve that problem, as opposed to just making an excuse for why I blew it that one particular day. And I think it really is a different mindset in looking at every interaction and that the quest for perfection. And if we're dropping the ball in an area, how are we going to re-engineer the standards and work on the culture to make sure we're achieving what we need to achieve? It's really a mindset.
It is. And I love that you also started this with the celebration, the recognizing you're doing this. Yes.
Right.
Oftentimes we weaponize standards. We weaponize them and we say, oh, we only talk to you about the standards when you aren't doing them,
Right.
or when you miss this. But when we hit those standards, this is yippee, right? Like, you did it.
Right.
You delivered on this. You've successfully done the thing. You're growing. You're creating amazing experiences. And that positive feedback, that positive reinforcement is some of the most powerful coaching that we can offer. And when we stop
Absolutely.
giving that, and our managers stop recognizing the excellence and the energy that it takes to deliver that, it belittles I should say, it takes away from people wanting to do it, right? But when
Yes.
they get celebrated, oh my gosh, thank you for catching that anniversary. Thank you for sharing that information. I was speaking with a hotel, and they have this thing that when one hotel or one department shares information with another, it really is a celebrated event. It's like, thank you so much for telling us so that we can be successful. I'm not passing on more work to you. I want you to know I'm really appreciative of you sending me that. It's like sending along a good sales lead, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is really great. Thank you for doing that. It's a warm lead, way better than me having to figure it out by myself. And I just love that Daniel, that you hit that, and because I think it's such a critical part of developing that culture is to learn to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a culture of discipline because you missed standards is a totally different culture from a culture of celebrating because you've hit the standards and knocked them out of the park. And I think the guests can feel it, right? In any company, ultimately, you can feel the culture of the place. It always, I take great pride when non-hoteliers come and stay here and say, I can feel how proud the staff is everywhere I go,
Oh,
and smiles on their faces. It's like that ownership. You can't train that.
no, you
How do
can't.
you sustain it? You know,
You have to work at it. I always say it's sexier to get the stars the first time than it is to keep it, right? You got that whole rah parade of we're gonna get it. We want to be the first hotel outside of Asia, anywhere in the Americas with 4 or 5 stars. It's not as sexy to be motivated to, hey, we want to keep those 20 stars. It just isn't the same vibe. And so it really has to become working hard at the culture and celebration, because I have been at a place in my last hotel. We had triple 5 stars from Forbes, and on one inspection, we lost it by a half a percentage point and fell down to being, 2 5s and a 4. And it was devastating for the team. And it took a year of hard work to get that 5th star back again. So I don't ever want to go through that again, because, what Forbes giveth, they take it away. They take it away very, very easily if you are not maintaining, because, their reputation is on the line too when they're giving out these kind of awards, and guests are booking in these hotels because of a 5-star award. We don't want to be the ones that let the guests down. And Forbes certainly doesn't want letters from guests saying, what were you guys thinking giving this place a 5-star award, right? So we've got to maintain the standards, but it really is the culture of just, these are the company's corporate standards. This is sort of our, what I call our minimum service standards. If this is too hard for you, don't work here. One of the things that I think good hotels do is also self-select out the people that just don't want to be on board.
Yes. There's great hiring, but I hate to say it like this too, but there's also great firing.
There is.
Of saying, look, it's not, terminating or doing this, maliciously by any means, but it's saying we have to have alignment. If this isn't something that you want to do, if this isn't the type of service that you're called to give,
That's
it's not
okay.
a fit. And a
Right.
fit doesn't just mean it's not a fit for us. It also means, hey, it probably isn't a fit for you. You're probably
Yep.
not going to like all these little things that you have to do and follow up, and the attention to detail. And if you don't like puzzles, don't do puzzles.
Right.
So, there is this element that we have to have that really hiring moment that are we bringing the right people on, but are we also keeping the right people?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
well, to kind of round out the conversation, like, Daniel, what do you think most hospitality leaders still underestimate about operational consistency and the impact on the guests and the employee culture and even financial performance?
I think from a finance perspective specifically, they don't fully realize that the more consistent you are, and I think that's the difference between a 4-star and a 5-star. You can't have a bad day on a 5-star level. The guest is paying for that consistency, but they will pay for that consistency. So from a P&L impact, they are going to pay for a stay where they are 99.5% assured that they are going to have a great stay every single time they come. And I think from a staff perspective, I hope it's a retention tool as well, that this prideful team we have built doesn't want to go work anywhere else, because I hope they think they're at the best place they can possibly be. And I think it's also part of our jobs to continue to develop their careers and make sure they have a career development plan so that they are staying here and not going off somewhere else.
And we realize in hospitality that consistency is our quality.
Absolutely.
Yes, we've got great beds, we've got great linens, we've got great food. Our product quality has to be there, right? But when we realize if it comes down to product quality, we recognize that that product can also be bought by our competitors, right?
Yes.
Someone else can buy the same bed linen, someone else can buy the same mattresses and so forth. But it really comes down to our consistency in service is our quality. It is our namesake. It is our trust. It is why guests are coming here. And truly, it ultimately becomes our product. And so I think that when we look at these things, sometimes we look at it from a financial standpoint, like you're saying, of like, is there return on this? Well,
Right.
yes, there absolutely is. I mean, that's why we do it. Not only is it's not just to feel good, but there is this financial return because you have made this promise of quality, and by consistently delivering it and owning it, it does come back. I had a really great leader that said to me, "Look, my job as a leader is to help focus and help give you the support so that you can give the attention to the guest.
That's right.
And when you give attention to the guest and the guest feels loved or the guest feels appreciated or they feel like the service that they received was worth the money, the juice was worth the squeeze, the guest will take care of your bottom line. They really will. They will buy the drinks, they'll buy the rooms, they'll take the upgrades, they'll come back. But if you're constantly having to find a new guest because the other ones just didn't feel like it was great, we'll never be actually able to raise the bar. We'll never be able to be financially profitable. And so focus on the guest. They'll take care of your bottom line, which means service absolutely is attached directly to the
Yeah.
financials.
A hard sell sometimes to your ownership group when you're saying that, right? I'm not going to focus on the P&L. I'm going to focus on the employees and I'm going to focus on the guests because the rest of it is secondary. They love hearing that. But ultimately, you are absolutely right. And so was that GM who mentored you, because it does in every hotel I've ever run trickle down to the bottom line because people are willing to pay more for that level of service and consistency and dedication. So when you are spending that money to train the team and take care of the team and they're taking care of the guest, the results are tenfold. And that is what, to answer your question, that is, I think that is what hospitality leaders still underestimate is those companies that, and we know the brands that are focused complete, where the GMs, I have friends that work for some of those brands. Your first job every day is to fill out the form of how much money you made yesterday and get it off to corporate because everybody's just focused on the numbers. You're not in the hospitality business anymore when you are that laser focused. We focus on the numbers and the expenses and the profit as well, but never to the expense of the employees and the guests they are delivering the service to. And I think that's something you can never forget.
Well, what's the first thing that you do, Daniel, when you get to the office?
I check the guest comment cards and the glitch, what we call a glitch report from the day before, to see, if there's any guests I have to reach out to where we dropped the ball. And because I also think that feedback is a gift. There's a lot of people that don't want to take a guest complaint because they're going to make one of their managers do it. To me, I am a huge believer, whether it's an employee complaint or a guest complaint, we can't fix it if we don't know it's broken. So the fact that you are taking the time, maybe not jumping up and down and yelling, but taking the time to sit down and tell me where our service has disappointed you and lapsed, allows us to make it up to you and allows us to examine the systems in place we have and the staff members and use those as a teaching moment to consistently continue to deliver the service. You can't be afraid of negative feedback. All feedback is great feedback because you really can't fix it if you don't know it's broken.
We had Dr. Finley Catrone joining us from UNLV not too long ago, and her statement was, remember, feedback is a gift.
Yes,
and
it really is.
It's so true. I mean, it is. It's always a gift because
it is. Sometimes not an easy gift to swallow when you've dropped the ball, but it is a gift that someone would take that time, right? Because how many guests are walking out the door disappointed with your service or a retail experience or a dining experience, and they don't say anything to you while they're on the property. They'll go tell 20 friends not to eat there or to go visit. When they take the time to sit down and say, let me share with you where you dropped the ball, that is absolutely a gift in our industry. Because we're only as good as the service we deliver.
Yeah. We are only as good as that. And I want to call one more thing. I know that we've taken over a little bit of time here, but I think it's important that we call out, people could be listening and saying, oh gosh, like all of these things. we have to remember there's only one property in the entire country that has this accolade. And what does it take to get there? It takes this focus. It takes this energy. It takes this level of care and dedication, that because you're doing it consistently. It's again, it's not been a fluke. And I think that when service is taken seriously and it's taken and quality and excellence, again, and when we say standards, we're not just talking about eye contact and smiling. We're everything. The bed is made right, and the room's looking good, and the couches are good, and the product is in the right condition. It definitely pays off, and it takes this great energy and this great effort to deliver it. And from an admiring congregation out here, to be able to see everything that your properties have done and succeeded is just such an inspiration, I think, to the industry, to show that you don't have to be a 5-room boutique hotel that is funded by a single owner billionaire, but you can take 1,000 rooms and you can deliver excellence on this scale. I think is just something that is showing to the industry and to the world it can be done.
Yeah. And any size in between, it can be done. It's just the right attitude and assembling the right team and supporting that team. You're absolutely right.
I love it.
Fantastic. Well, that's probably time. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us, man. I know you're busy.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This has been absolutely wonderful. We hope lots of guests get to come and visit you this summer, and hopefully they get to experience the amazing products and services that your team has to deliver. And Daniel, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.